are outside. Annie, where are you? Tell me if you can see her. I cannot see her. She's hidden. And look at the creek. It's all frozen. There's a creek down there. It's beautiful. We actually had another ½ inch to an inch of snow. Well, welcome to my channel. We'll find Annie sooner or later. I'll start walking this way. Come on, Annie. Welcome to my channel where I talk about mental health is spiritual health. I really believe that. I'm not a therapist or a doctor, or I'm not even a pastor. I just believe that wholeheartedly. I've had things happen in my life, and we're gonna actually get into it today because we're gonna talk about God's sustaining presence. God's sustaining presence, and we're gonna be in the book of Daniel, chapter 6. We'll focus on verses 19 to the end, but it's basically the entire Daniel chapter 6 when he was thrown into the lion's den. So, hey, Donut Dolly, good morning. I'm good. I'm just a little bit cold. I think I'm buffered from the wind. There's like 10 to 20 mile an hour winds today, but I don't feel them. That's good. And here's Annie. We got Annie back. Annie, come here. Annie, come. She's not coming. Annie, come here. Annie, you want something? Get your stick. Nope, she is not listening to me. She is focused on something else and going the other direction. Donut Dolly, you are up early. Holy cow, I don't know how you do it. It's 4:47 where you are. I forgot what state you're in. I was just curious what state you were in. I know you're on the West Coast, so it's got to be like Washington, Oregon, or California. Someone mentioned California yesterday, so maybe that was it and I missed it. Anyway, God's sustaining presence. That's what I'm going to talk about today in the book of Daniel, chapter 6. So Daniel was a prophet, you might know, who was exiled into Babylon with many of the other Jewish people. But he was there, he continued to pray to God. And obviously God was looking out for him because he became an administrator in the kingdom of Babylon. He was in the top 3 people in the kingdom, and he was overseeing 120 satraps. So he kept doing so well that King Darius wanted to make him the top, the number 2 person in the kingdom just below him. And when the other administrators and satraps heard about that, they got jealous. So they figured out a way to get rid of Daniel. They wanted to kill him. And they knew he prayed to the God of Israel. There's Annie. You're having your coffee, that's good. I'm gonna need some coffee in a little bit, Dolly. So what did the administrators do and the satraps? Well, they convinced the king to make a new law that says if you pray to any other god or person other than the king, you will be thrown into the lion's den and killed. So the king made that law. But even though that law existed, Daniel ignored that and kept praying to God. So, of course, oh, look at that beautiful fallen tree with all the snow on it back there. So, of course, what happens? They tell the king, they catch him praying. Daniel gets thrown into the lion's den. And what happens? Daniel tells him, oh, God will protect me. So, throw Daniel in the lion's den. He's in there all night long. The king wakes up early and runs over to the lion's den to see if Daniel's okay. And sure enough, he's okay. He's protected by an angel of God, and the lions didn't touch him. So it proved his innocence. And then those administrators and satraps all got thrown into the lion's den because they're the ones who lied. It is very cold. It is very cold. So what does that say about God's presence? Even when you're in a foreign country, right? Actually, let me see where Annie is. Nope, okay, she's coming back. She went down toward the creek and it made me nervous. It made me nervous. So, Daniel prayed regardless. He trusted God, knew he was with him. And even the king said, after he found Daniel unharmed in the lion's den, the king said, he rescues, meaning God rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. Basically, God was good now. God was good then, and he's still good now, and his presence will keep you. So my questions, obviously, and I'm going to relate this to another story, which I usually do at the beginning, but I waited till the end because I'm going to answer these questions myself. So thinking about past troubles, and maybe even then relating them to your present ones, what past trial has tested you? And how did God kindly sustain you? And then you can remember that for the present trials that you have, right? So what past trial tested you? Well, look at Annie. She's leaping around. What tested me? Well, let's put it this way. I didn't want to live anymore. I can't even talk about this on camera yet. I didn't want to live, and I was tired of being miserable and living in my situation. My situation still isn't better, but I mean, it's a little bit better, but I'm just saying everything was bad, going bad for me, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I had a life insurance policy, and I figured that would help my kids and my ex-wife. And I was worth more dead than I was alive. And I took a bunch of acetaminophen pills. 139 to be exact. And they were extra strength tablets. So they were 500 milligram acetaminophen tablets, which means I took 69,500 milligrams of acetaminophen after I had 4 IPA beers, which are high alcohol beers, because I was trying to stress my liver even more. And then I washed them down with a bourbon in a hotel room. And I really wanted to die. And I wanted to die as fast as possible. And I was even talking to God and praying and hoping that he would take me. Obviously he didn't, I'm still here. But here's the rest of the story that doesn't make any sense to me, and it's so unbelievable, probably nobody would believe it, unless simply for the fact that I was living with my mom at the time, and she can vouch for what happened to me. So I finally fell asleep, wee hours in the morning, say 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't even know, right? When you're doing something like that, you don't know what time it is. But it was very late. And I fell asleep after all that alcohol and all that acetaminophen, which was roughly 4 to 6 times the lethal limit for any human. So I wanted to basically guarantee or ensure that I was going to die. Well, I woke up a few hours later, again, really early in the morning, and I was violently throwing up all the time. I don't know if it was every minute or every 5 minutes, but it was so frequent. Even once everything was expelled, I was still throwing up. My body was still trying to get rid of something. It knew there was poison in my body, so I just kept throwing up and throwing up and throwing up. And I thought I would have been dead by that time because I didn't do enough research into how long it was going to take to die from acetaminophen poisoning. So I drove home to my mom. I told her I'd be fine. I don't think I told her what I did because I just wanted to continue being sick until I died. So I kind of went into my bedroom and closed the door. I threw up all day long and all night long again. And in the wee hours of the morning again, I fell asleep for a little bit. And then I woke up the next morning. So this is after the second night after this. And I felt fine. I stopped throwing up and I felt okay. And I didn't understand how I could be okay after doing all of that and not seeing a doctor or going to the hospital for the antidote for all that poisoning. Oh, when was this? This was February of 2023. So about 2 years ago. And then when I woke up that Sunday morning and felt fine, I reached over and grabbed my phone. And I looked at my phone, and there were only two places where my Bible app could have been. One was in the Old Testament where I was reading, where I do my devotional reading every day. And sometimes I'd alternate between my phone and the actual paper Bible. The second place where it could have been was wherever the Catholic readings or gospels were for that day, because sometimes I would like to read the readings or the gospel for the mass for that day. Okay? But the Bible app was in neither of those locations. The first thing I grabbed was my phone, opened the Bible app, because I just didn't understand, and I was kind of mad that I was feeling okay. Honestly, I was pissed to use my own brain. That's what I was thinking at the time. And the Bible app was on John chapter 5. And there was one of those bold subheadings that explained that passage. And that bold text says, cured on the Sabbath, which was, that day was Sunday. So I don't know how else to explain anything of what happened to me other than God didn't want to let me die. And I don't know why he didn't want to let me die. I mean, some days, today's probably not a great day either. I mean, I don't know why I'm alive. I honestly don't know why I'm alive. I don't know what happened. And it's unbelievable to me that happened. And I don't even know what my mom thinks about it, after taking all that acetaminophen and alcohol and throwing up violently for like 24 hours and then waking up fine after the second night. Talk about God's sustaining presence. Even when I didn't want it and I was praying for something else, he was still watching out for me. And I'm still here. And I don't know why still. But anyway, if I look at past trouble and how God was with me, that's what I look at. So if I'm in a present trouble, I know he's always with me no matter what. And he's probably not going to let me die. So I don't know about you guys, but if you could share something either in the chat or in the messages later, I'd be curious, what past trial has tested you, and how did God kindly sustain you? So I shared my part of my story. That was the big one. And I'd be curious to hear everybody else and how God has sustained you. I am glad I'm here, though, because look at Annie. I love Annie. Annie! Annie! Are you back to your normal self? Are you back to your normal crazy self? Tons of energy, nonstop movement all day long. I like you chewing on these big branches because you can't get pieces off and choke. Vet said you shouldn't be chewing on this, but if I pick it up and throw it, you'll just go fetch it. You'll think I'm playing with you. So it's best to just leave you do this. You know, I wanted to share a sunrise with you guys, but it was snowing this morning earlier, lightly for about an hour. We had some flurries. So it's just very cloudy. The sun did rise. I think it was at 7:51, so that's 10 minutes ago. But obviously you can't see anything. And you guys all know that the sun is over here, but it actually looks brighter in this direction, in the south, because there's less clouds in the south than in the east, this is right where the sun would be coming up. There's so many clouds, we can't see it. Feelings always pass, but actions are forever. Glad you're here, Matt. That's true. Thanks. Thanks, Dolly. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I want to do something. My future actions, I'm always struggling with that. What does God want me to do? Yeah. What are actions are forever? What does that mean? Actions are forever. I mean, words and actions are forever. I mean, you can't ever take them back, but you can move past them, right? I just can't believe I'm here. Where is Annie? Annie, where'd you go, babe? Yeah, there's nobody for a long way. You got to walk at least a quarter mile back through these woods to get to an apartment complex, but not even mine. I am passionate about religion. I would like to become a church figure. Like I mentioned, I would like to do something with something like, I have this crazy dream. It's really super exciting about making a church that is for people who are not, quote, normal, right? Think of all disabled people, whether mentally or physically. Everybody would not just be welcomed, because every church welcomes everybody. I'm saying they would not only be welcomed, they would be catered to, right? And then there would be a bunch of churches all over the place, like eventually all over the world, that would cater to people who had PTSD, and maybe because of certain things they can't go to certain services because of I don't know, all these things, like people who can't see, people who can't hear, right? People who can't walk or have difficulty walking or other physical issues. It's a place where they are most comfortable. You know what I mean? That, it's kind of like I can write down every type of idea or, quote, disability, and then what would be good for that person, and then incorporate that all into one place, if that's even logistically possible, but that would be the dream. Oh, I get it, Dolly. Okay, thank you. Yeah. If I took my life, it would be the end. But My feelings of hopelessness and depression wax and wane. That's true, they do. They do wax and wane. Oh, okay. Well, Annie and I, thanks for being here, Dolly. Thanks for listening. I think you might be the only one. Too bad I didn't have Orangey here. You got another prize. Well, I appreciate you watching, and yeah, just remember God's sustaining presence. I will never forget it, ever, 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 ever. I don't understand it. I honestly, I can't. I'm always looking for a scapegoat or another reason why I didn't die. You know, like someone slipped like the antidote. Someone slipped the antidote in one of my drinks or something, unbeknownst to me. Not only would that be extremely difficult, but the antidote, I think, is fed to you intravenously for like a period of 24 hours. So I don't understand what happened to me, because that bottle of acetaminophen was sealed too. It was like a brand new bottle. It wasn't like a bottle and, someone put a bunch of fake pills in there. I mean, I'm always looking for a logical explanation, and I can't find a logical explanation for what happened to me. Hey, that's a good idea, Dolly. Hey, between you and me, maybe tonight. I might bring Orangey with me next time in the morning, but I may do something tonight too for that comment. All right, I'm gonna head out. I'm kind of emotionally exhausted from thinking about that. I don't know why. It's difficult. Annie, it's difficult. I gotta change my thoughts right now. Annie, what are you doing? So just remember God's sustaining presence. And you know what? Here, I want to share one more thing. I do want to share one more thing. 2 quotes, one from the Old Testament and one from the New Testament, just to remind you of God's sustaining presence through the ages. So not just through your own life, but through the ages for everyone. So Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. I love that verse from the Old Testament. And here's the other one. The very last sentence in the Gospel of Matthew, the gospel that I'm named after, but my mom misspelled it. The very last sentence in the Gospel of Matthew comes from Jesus, comes from God himself. Jesus said, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. So with that, I'm going to leave you guys. I hope you have an awesome day. Stay warm and remember of God's sustaining presence in your life and what he's done for you in the past. So whatever you're going through in the present, he's still with you and you'll get through it, okay? I love you guys. Thank you for joining. Thanks, Dolly. Thanks, Frank. Good morning. Good morning. I do have a therapist. Yeah, I have a psychologist. I have a whole team of people helping me. Frank's one of them. Here's Frank. Good morning. So yeah, I encourage you guys to listen to this one. Frank, if you missed it, you might like this episode. All right? I'll see you guys. Have a great day. I got to go to a Bible study. See you, Dolly. Bye, Frank.